Advocate Andrea Johnson's name is on every page, and the woman putting it there worked beside her team for 4 years. State Advocate D. Ramsamy takes the stand. And what she tells the commission cuts to the bone. My greater concern, she says, was who was giving Advocate Johnson this information to direct the investigation in this manner. She had a suspicion. She tells the commission Johnson said Minister Mthunu wanted to clean up SAPS and crime intelligence. She tells them Johnson's husband worked in crime intelligence. She tells them she'd heard he and General Feroz Khan were friends. 2 and 2 and 4 together. Then came the pressure. Arrests every 2 weeks, a takedown penciled in for the 7th of May, and a message from the head of IDAC herself, let us strike while it is hot. Paragraph 50 of her statement says it plainly, that Advocate Johnson and Mr. Perumal, quote, launched an orchestrated attack on General Masemola and Lieutenant General Khumalo, using IDAC's own investigation tools. And then, the document. A Section 281 application dated 30 May 2025, produced to this commission in her name. I did not prepare this application. These are allegations, under oath. Nothing is proven. Hit like, subscribe, turn on the bell. Let's go inside.
Okay, but did Advocate Johnson say why you had to do this? This doesn't seem to come from any of Mr. Adams' complaints which gave rise to Project Diversion.
No, Advocate, like I said, and I think I'm saying it now for the third or fourth time, this is one of the main reasons for my unease. I didn't know where this information that Advocate Johnson was relaying to us is coming from. And I didn't understand how it was linked to the 27 referral. And my greater concern was who was giving Advocate Johnson this information to direct the investigation in this manner.
Well, did you have a suspicion as to who it was?
I did. Because of the meeting that evening, I suspected that this was, and because Advocate Johnson said that Minister Mthunu wanted to clean up SAPS and crime intelligence, I assumed that there were conversations happening with regards to the greater scheme of things.
So you suspected Advocate Johnson was getting this information from Minister Mthunu?
That, as well as the fact that her husband worked in crime intelligence.
Okay. Now, insofar as General Sabia is concerned, you have reference there to through 28 and National Commissioner. What was to happen there?
28 was supposed to be sent to the National Commissioner for the personnel file of General Sabia.
Okay, for General Sabia's personnel file. Okay.
From this, it sounds like General Sabia, in this case, was the subject of interest, if you are looking for his purposes.
But to set the record straight. Yes.
The next one?
The Section 28 medical records of Lushaba, General Lushaba. This was a fight. This was a very big fight, and this started a lot of problems in the team. I think during consultation with the evidence leaders, I even asked them, do you know what a J88 is? And they laughed at me. But in this meeting, when I was saying because they wanted to 28 the hospital for the entire medical file, you cannot do that. How am I going to lead the evidence? Should I ever lead the evidence? Because does this man waiver his rights to confidentiality? And I said to them, the legal process, if you want a medical record, is you take a J88 to the doctor, especially for that specific medical consultation. And they will fill it in, and it becomes a 212, which then becomes easier to prove in court. And with Mr. Padiachi, I got the blankest stare. It was as if it just went over. And with Mr. Perumal, he was like, oh, yeah, we'll do that. But they never did that. They actually did 28. They actually, the full medical file.
Mr. Lushaba, General Lushaba's full
medical file from the emergency for the medical treatment after the incident.
And then you did speak about the next one, which was the tracker and the Inatus information.
Correct.
And that would have been on General Lushaba's vehicle.
Correct.
And what is it that they were?
Surely at this point you must have a sense about the role of General Khan. Yeah. Can you just speak to that? I mean, it's difficult to comprehend a situation where you are all having these discussions in these meetings and tasks are given and his name keeps coming up. You also know who he is, that you now know he's in crime intelligence. He works with Advocate Johnson, Johnson's husband. So there are certain facts you know. You must have formed a view at this point about his...
I did.
Yeah, can you just share that with us?
So what I did was I Googled, because there was a lot of talk about him being on sick leave or suspension, but I wasn't following it. So I had Googled and I realized that there was a lot of problems between himself and management of SAPS. My opinion that I formed was that if I'm allowed to just deviate a little bit. In 2023, I had been given a docket where the former head of crime intelligence, Lieutenant General Jacobs, is supposed to have been accused number one. And when I was one statement short from being able to enroll the matter against 3 suspects in the matter.
You are in IDEC at that time?
I'm in IDEC at the time. That is one of the 3 matters that I indicated in Statement 1 where Advocate Johnson point blank refused to let me proceed. In fact, she held a meeting saying that those dockets were going to be sent to SECU, but they had come through the Zondo Commission. And it was around that time that I was putting the link of Advocate Johnson's husband, crime intelligence, and this matter, because people talk. And I was also asking the investigating officer, why are we being blocked? And then I had heard about Advocate Johnson's husband and Mr. Khan being friends. Then all of this happened. So I put 4 and 4 together, and I realized that there were other aspects at play, which made me even more cautious with my note-taking, my written objections, notifying management of how procedures are not being followed. And the mere fact that the Feroz Khan affidavit in the Lushaba matter was kept from me. There's an email to that effect where I'm saying I'm not even made aware of it. I've now had 2 court appearances. I have replied to requests for further particulars. So when I disclose this, it's going to look like I'm hiding information from the defense. So I also vocalized my concerns about General Khan's involvement. It also became very clear his agenda when I started reading his affidavits. And I put so in 2 memos, that he's only speaking about his own issues. So I do believe that he had influence on these matters and how they progressed.
The investigations and the decisions to prosecute.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the statement. You were dealing with paragraph 23.
It seemed that out of nowhere, Advocate Johnson started putting immense pressure on the team to start effecting arrests on Project Diversion. Advocate Johnson wanted matters enrolled as a matter of urgency. On the 9th of April 2025, Mr. Perumal informed me that Advocate Johnson wanted to advise us that the meeting with Ian Cameron went very well and that we have his full support and that we got his affidavit. Mr. Perumal forwarded messages from Advocate Johnson where it is clear that she was eager for the arrests to be effected as soon as possible, or as she put it, let us strike while it is hot.
We do have the screenshot of that. It's not yet in the bundle. It's part of the documents, but we do have, that's supposed to be added and compiled. So we're going to flight that now, but it will be added to file 10 at some point when we do the other documents. Are you able to see it and read it?
Yeah. Okay, ID. Just wanted to advise, meeting with Ian Cameron went well. Full support from him. We got his affidavit. We also got...
No, I think you must start from the beginning. This is an email this is the WhatsApp from Mr. Perumal.
Correct. This is a WhatsApp from Mr. Perumal. He forwarded it to me after he had sent it to Advocate Johnson.
Yes, okay.
He was reporting to
Advocate Johnson.
Okay.
We also got General Pinar to come in. Once she saw the evidence she's withdrawing her reports, wherein she cleared Lushaba. I will sign off on her affidavit on Friday. She admits that she was misled by the IO and Lushaba's friends, etc. We're back at airport, flying back to PTA at 6 p.m.
And so,
Commissioner, after the 30th of January until April, I'm completely kept out of the loop. And it's after this message where I'm now being told that we must strike while it's hot, that I'm doing, there is another presentation where I say, I've only received documents on the 11th of April. I haven't received any of the information that was received through the 28th. So I cannot enroll according to the timeline.
If you are kept out of the loop, you say from January until about April, how do you explain that Mr. Perumal sends you this? Because this suggests, on the face of it, this message suggests you know what he's talking about because you've been part of it. How do you explain it then?
I actually had a conversation about this. When I spoke to Mr. Sesoko about this, I said to him, now they want me in because they need a prosecutor. So now they want to bring me into the fold, and the word I used was play nice because they needed a prosecutor.
it's because they wanted to enroll the matters.
Correct.
Okay. And they could only do that with a
Accused number 2, Mahashwa, is not even there. But the statement in the Valeria CAS 38, as it stands now, is an affidavit commissioned by the detective Mahashwa. So the investigations progressed. Mr. Rapesu went to speak to the station commander. The station commander also had his own concerns about this docket. And he voiced them with regards to the amount of pressure that he was receiving from accused number 4, 3 and 4 to close this docket. In fact, he says, accused number 3 and 4 said to me, don't you want to make your life easy and just close this docket as undetected? The commander also speaks about he did his own investigations with regards to cell phone records and all of those things. He confirms that he has the video, or he viewed the video footage referred to in Mr. Lushaba and the friend's affidavit. But that video footage is gone. It's nowhere. What is labeled as video footage and put in the SAP 13 and an SAP or exhibit bag is actually cell phone records that were obtained by the commander. So that USB of the video footage is gone.
And this is everything that Mr. Rapesu did before he gets taken off the matter. Investigator now Mr. Padiachi, or is it Mr. Perumal? Who's the investigator?
Must I answer that?
Yes.
It's
I
too
know
late
you
not
have-
to be blunt, so I'm going to be blunt. Commissioners, Mr. Padiachi does not know investigation. He is, and even if you look at the emails that I'm providing to the commission, even his affidavits for the J50s, he's never drafted them. Those affidavits are drafted by Mr. Perumal and emailed by Mr. Perumal, and they're in two different provinces. And he would say, Brian, peruse, team peruse. So those, everything, and like I said, I know the staff Padiachi struggled to do. And on one occasion, Mr. Padiachi had said to me, I'm still new to this, so I need you to guide me through this, whatever. But if you're asking me for guidance, then you must also be willing to learn. And you must be able, because he would sit and he would say, let me tell you how crime intelligence is working, Whenever I would ask why there was a shortage of evidence in an affidavit obtained, it would be, let me tell you. And I said, no, but irrespective of what you know, in order for me to make a decision on the evidence, it has to be in the statement. So...
You sound like you, I'm not saying that's your intention. You sound like you agree with General Mkwanezi that Colonel Padiachi knows nothing about investigations. Is that a fair?
It's a fair
assessment.
Having worked with him since January 2025. Actually, I worked with him on the other 27 referral, but he came in much later after the investigation was done.
That's all he says. When he says, so it would appear that their engagement with him would have been limited to that particular question, the vetting, crime intelligence. What did you understand Mr. Perumal to say when he says we have full support from Mr. Cameron? That what you understood or what he said?
I understood him to have meant that they went to Mr. Cameron with a specific narrative in mind, and that narrative was accepted. And I say this because I had been working with them for so long. I have sat in 2 or 4 negotiations on other matters, so I know how they think, how they work. They went to him with a specific narrative, and he was on board.
And the narrative would be what? Because in the bigger scheme, you have said to us, the National Commissioner, when you say narrative that you think they went there with, and that's what Perumal is speaking to when he says that Mr. Cameron gives his full support. What in fact do you have in mind, or are you seeking to convey to us?
My understanding of the narrative by then was exactly what they were perpetuating. That General Khumalo and General Masemola need to leave. they need to be gone.
Understanding was that, and you may well have been wrong in your understanding,
Correct.
so you're not placing it higher than what you made of it.
Correct.
Your understanding was that Perumal is conveying that Cameroon supports that agenda.
Correct.
He may well be misrepresenting what happened between him and Cameroon, so we're not placing it higher than that.
Correct. And also, just to repeat, by then, Advocate Johnson had already said we must look into a link of PKTT and Cameroon, in Cameroon. Also, we have the WhatsApps where Mr. Perumal is sending me documents that were top secret, contain very, very dangerous information about a person and their lifestyle, their families, etc. For the purpose of security of Mr. Cameron. So how did we go from investigating how Mr. Cameron went to get, or how Mr. Cameron got protection, his risk assessment, and the PKTT involvement, to he's now on board? Paragraph 25. On April 2025, a meeting was
On
held.
24 April
2025, a meeting was held with the project diversion team. Present was Advocate Johnson, Mr. Perumal, Sissoko Padiachi, project manager Tsepo Shlale, Patam Lambo, senior investigator, Charles Els, investigator, Venan Vessels, the chief financial investigator. Mr. Sissoko and me. By this time, Mr. Rapeso was no longer on the project. At this meeting, a second written presentation was made to Advocate Johnson. I pointed out that I had received affidavits late, and none of the documents secured in terms of the Section 28 processes had been made available to me. Mr. Perumal attempted to deny knowledge of the Section 28 summonses that were issued in respect of General Lushaba's bank account. Those issued by Mr. Rapeso in December 2024. I was shocked and reminded him of the events surrounding the issuing of those summons. In fact, he was copied on Mr. Rapeso's Section What email, attaching the summonses. Tensions were high at that stage, so much so that I had to address the issues with Advocate Johnson and Mr. Sissoko, which I did in an email titled Prosecutorial Instructions Considered as Disrespectful and Nonsense. In this email of 25 April 2025, I also raised the issues that investigators were not complying with SOPs during the investigation. I will return to
There is a 24 April meeting.
Yes.
But the meeting that you say is the significant meeting where the takedown, that is why there's a takedown ±7 May.
Correct.
Okay. And tell us what is takedown a reference to?
Takedown is the word that Advocate Johnson and Mr. Perumal use with regards to arrests.
Okay, so the arrests, what were you being told about the takedown?
I was instructed that the takedown for Mr. Lushaba and the three others was to take place on the 7th of May, ±7th of May.
That was the target date.
Correct.
And were you given any information as to the significance of that date?
No, I was not.
Okay. And then and then what were to happen to the other arrests?
The instruction was that there were going to be arrests every 2 weeks.
Arrests in respect of the other matters every 2 weeks?
In respect of the other matters. So the arrests would go, each meeting it changed the order. So this meeting it was Lushaba, Mukwele, Modondo, Masemola, Khumalo.
This is still a continuation of the meeting of 16 April. I just want you to tell the commissioners why General Masemola's name is mentioned in that note? And it says not allowed till ID is convinced.
I was informed in that meeting that General Masemola was served with a Section 28 to appear before a designated member of the ID to answer questions. In that meeting, the ID asked me, why is NASCOM being served? And I'm like, I literally did this. And I pointed to Perumal. And she wanted an explanation as to why it was to happen. And so she gave Mr. Perumal an instruction that he must phone NASCOM and tell NASCOM that the ID instructed that he is not to respond to that 28. And that a letter was to be drafted by Mr. Perumal to withdraw the 28 served on NASCOM. And she wanted Mr. Perumal to advise her as to why it was necessary to 28 and interview the NASCOM.
Yeah, this wasn't just 28.
Be interviewed. So who was going to do the interview and for what purpose? Because at that point, I didn't even know what information they wanted to question NASCOM on.
And what was Mr. Perumal's reaction to Advocate Johnson saying that it must be placed on hold until she is convinced?
He was very angry. He was extremely angry. In fact, after the meeting, he stormed out of the meeting. When Advocate Johnson, so he threw his pen down twice during that meeting. Once when I said that the statements, 90% of the statements are futile because they're so poor. And then the second time was when Advocate Johnson said the 28 interview was not taking place. And after the meeting, he was spitting fire. And he was saying that ID doesn't know what happens with these things. The ID doesn't understand how these things work. I'm going to explain it to her. Once I explain it to her, she let it happen.
Okay, if we go to 22, there's that reference in your notes to that as well, where it says call NASCOM withdrawn interview. Is that in relation to the same issue?
Correct.
Okay. And was the National Commissioner advised that he shouldn't appear?
Correct. And a letter of withdrawal was sent, as well as the instruction of Advocate Johnson was to go and physically obtain the subpoena served. It was to be brought to her. She was to scratch over it as cancelled or withdrawn, and it must be taken back to NASCOM.
Now, who would have signed that subpoena?
I haven't seen the subpoena, but the only person that would have been able to sign such a subpoena is Advocate Johnson.
But she didn't know about it, as far as you were aware, because she said it must be withdrawn in that meeting. So did you believe her that she didn't know anything about it?
Is it a case of she did not know or she was not convinced that it's necessary?
I can't answer that specific question. I can only tell you that the only person that could have signed it was her. So unless she was signing documents for Mr. Perumal without reading it and without an explanation, she knew.
So if she says it must be withdrawn, it means she must have known that it exists.
Thank you. I became aware that on 9 May 2025, a meeting was held in my absence with Advocate Johnson, Mr. Sesoko, and Mr. Sesoko, where the investigators, Mr. Perumal and Padiachi, complained that they could no longer work with me. They cited my April 2025 affidavit regarding Mr. Rapesu's victimization. But I suspect it is because I was not going along with their irregular investigation processes. I had no knowledge of the process of the investigation, notwithstanding my instructions to be kept informed. At one point, I received affidavits from witnesses who had been referred to as Section 204 witnesses. I had not been consulted on possible Section 204 witnesses. I was also given the affidavits that were already commissioned. I had previously informed Advocate Johnson that I had not perused the Section 204 statement, to which she replied that it was discussed with her and she approved of the Section 204. When I was told that the distrust related to my affidavit, I asked Mr. Sissoko whether it was because I mentioned in my affidavit, one, Advocate Johnson had informed us in the meeting that she had met with Minister Mkhunu, or perhaps the fact that I had mentioned General Gininda had been mentioned in our project diversion meeting, or perhaps that we were investigating Mr. Nkabinde. Mr. Sissoko responded that it was probably all of the above. It was also during this time that Advocate Johnson instructed us to effect arrests on project diversion every 2 weeks, starting from the first week of May 2025. But for reasons that annoyed Advocate Johnson, this did not happen as she'd planned.
Can you just...
With the Mukwele leg, oh boy, the evidence. You know, I think one of the reasons Brian fought with me and stuck his finger in my face was because I said that a nursery book reads better than this docket. It was poor. There was no elements of any offence.
This is the Mukwe. Can we just then deal with Advocate Johnson's approach on the 204, which is page 241 of file 10, which is a WhatsApp exchange between you and Advocate Johnson. It starts with the issue of Mr. Nkabinde, but at the bottom of your message at 10:56 on the 24th of Jan already. 24th of January, there's discussions about a 204. This was one
Correct.
of your issues, your concerns.
Correct.
241, the last paragraph in your 10:56 message.
Yes.
You can read from there.
The witness for vetting, the team asked me to discuss 204 status with you, but I have not perused statement as yet. Advocate Johnson replied, Chief discussed with me while he was here. I agreed to a 204.
And then you say thank yous.
If the decision was made, nothing I was going to say was going to change it. Even in the later WhatsApps, where I say to her, I'm going to consult with the witness on the Lushaba matter so we don't have the same problem we have in the vetting.
And what did she say to that?
If I can remember, it was okay.
Okay, so in your concern about the 204 started very early on.
Yes, I did it.
Yes, all right. Thank you.
I want to ask about IDAC's investigative processes, because I see that it's May, you're already discussing takedowns, which I understand to be getting warrants of arrest.
Correct.
I've noticed that in all the matters we have discussed, although you have the Section 28 process available, you actually don't have statements from the suspects. And you said yourself that you thought one case was not very strong, the other one, there was a prima facie case of criminal conduct. But some of the questions you still had, I would have thought that if you interviewed the suspects, if you summoned them and you said to them, how did it happen that you were given this position without the vetting process being done? Who actually did the vetting process? Under what circumstances? Then you would evaluate all of that and determine whether there's reason to arrest, charge, and prosecute. But in all these cases, it looks like there was a rush to arrest people and prosecute them when you didn't have the full facts.
Correct.
So why is that? I'm trying to understand why in the process, the mechanism available to bring people in to ask them questions so that you clarify issues, why that was not used?
Chair, Commissioner Khumalo, even without the processes of 28, a district court prosecutor who has a docket of that nature would ask the investigating officer to file a warning statement. It was not done.
Because I'm assuming that even the prosecutor, because we learned that.
Okay, I will paraphrase it, Commissioner Khumalo. I started on last week Thursday by saying that the evidence I'm going to provide to the Commission will demonstrate that there was an orchestrated attack and plan to arrest people. So, and I said it earlier, and I said it again now, common sense doesn't prevail. Regulations don't prevail when manipulation is happening.
It's page 21, paragraph 50.
Thank you.
I'm indebted to Ms. Poe for that.
Thank you, Advocate.
I think you can go from before I deal with the event, so almost towards the end of paragraph 50 on page 21.
It's fourth line from the bottom.
Thank you. Before I deal with the events that transpired from the 6th of December 2024, I want to make it clear that Advocate Johnson and Mr. Perumal launched an orchestrated attack on General Masemola and Lieutenant General Khumalo using IDAC's powerful investigation tools. So common sense did not prevail when the plan and the evidence was being manipulated.
So they could have, but they chose not to because their plan was to.
Correct.
Did Ms. Johnson say why the agency? I accept that if indeed this was an orchestrated scheme, it's understandable that not as inapproved, but understandable that things would not proceed in the normal course, to follow the rules, to follow common sense. This is why we only act once we've gathered everything. You do a 204 only at a certain point when you've gathered everything. So that would not apply because we have a scheme that in fact we are executing. It's not about legitimate investigation and prosecution of wrongdoing. There's no legitimacy to it. Does she explain, even in that scenario, why we must do it every 2 weeks and why we start in May? What was pushing her? Did she ever say anything?
There was no explanation provided. And as Advocate Surunya explained yesterday, some questions you just don't ask. I will deviate slightly from my timeline in dealing with the events of May 2025. It is better that I deal with the events thematically instead of chronologically. When Advocate Johnson testified before the Commission, she produced a Section 28(1) authorization signed and dated 30 May 2025. In the Mokwele matter, as well as a 28(1) application purportedly from me to her, dated 30 May 2025.
Just want to go to that. So if you go to file 8, just before you do that, it says that it's from Advocate D. Ramsamy, title State Advocate 30 May 2025 to Advocate Johnson.
Correct?
Yes.
Advocate Johnson testified before this commission. She produced a Section 28(1) authorization signed and dated 30 May 2025 in the Mokwele matter, as well as a Section 28(1) application purported from me to her dated 30 May 2025, I did not prepare this application, and the authorization could not have been signed and approved by Advocate Johnson on the 30th of May 2025. As these documents suggest, I say so for the following reasons. During the meeting...
Sorry, before you say that, so what you're saying is that the document that Advocate Johnson produced that she indicated was the authorization for the 28-1 investigation into the Mokwele matter, and that was preceded by an application drafted by you, sent to her, in order for her to authorize the investigation on 30 May 2025. You say you did not prepare that document.
Correct.
Okay. And you say that not only did you not prepare it, but that authorization couldn't have been, that investigation couldn't have been authorized by Advocate Johnson on the 30th of May 2025.
Correct.
Okay, and then you tell us why you say so at 32.
During the meeting on the 27th of May 2025,
take your time.
Advocate Johnson instructed me to prepare one umbrella Section 28 for all crime intelligence matters. May I please have a vote?
Let's adjourn.